Welcome to the fourth section of Cooking and Baking 101, Equipping Caregivers to Create Delicious and Nutritious Homemade Meals. Brought to you by American Way University. As a reminder, my name is Angie Danielski, and our cooking expert featured in the video segments is Krista Bly. Here is an overview of what Part 4 of the presentation will cover. We'll continue learning more about the basics about preparation and cooking as we review the anatomy of a knife, selecting the proper knife for the task at hand, and proper knife care and maintenance, along with how to sharpen a knife. When choosing a knife, it is important to understand the different parts of the knife so that you can use the knife properly. Here is a representation of a knife with the different parts labeled. The blade of the knife will vary in length, width, thickness, shape, and flexibility. The type of blade will dictate what type of task the knife is made for. The edge of the blade is the cutting surface, which may be straight, fluted, serrated, or scalloped. This will determine which type of cut the knife will make. Straight edges are on most general preparation knives. A straight edge is ideal for chopping and slicing through food. Fluted edges are applied to some blades. The dimples create both a thinner blade and little air pockets between the blade and the food, which can help slice through food more easily. Fluted blades are particularly useful in slicing and carving, such as for cold meats or smoked salmon. Serrated edges actually tear through food and are ideal for certain tasks. A bread knife always has a serrated or scalloped blade that can cut more easily through the outer crust. Smaller knives with a serrated edge make easy work of slicing through foods with hard skin, such as cucumbers, tomatoes, and lemons. Scalloped edges are like enlarged serrations, as the points have clearly defined crescents separating them. The points will cut through the hard outer crust or skin. These knives can be used for the same foods as serrated knives, but are also suitable for slicing cold meats. Both serrated and scalloped edge knives are difficult to sharpen. However, they retain their edge for a longer period of time than other knives. The heel of the blade is the lower part of the blade next to the bolster or handle. The deeper heel allows the user to chop with the knife. The bolster is the metal part of the knife between the actual blade and the handle. The bolster is the fulcrum or balance point of the knife. It adds weight and strength to higher quality knives, and most importantly, it helps to prevent the hand from sliding down the handle and onto the blade. Lower priced knives do not always have bolsters, or they may have a false bolster, a metal collar applied to the knife so that the knife appears to have an integrated bolster. A false bolster does not contribute to the strength of the knife and has little effect on weight or balance. The handle of the knife is where your hand goes. The shape and the material of the handle will directly affect the overall comfort of the knife. You will have your own preference as you begin using knives to chop things. A good handle will provide grip when the hands are wet or sticky. A quality knife will have better seals between the handle, tang, and blade. Be aware that bacteria could gather in any cracks in the handle of an inferior knife. A metal handle will be welded to the bolster. A composition handle will be molded and glued to the bolster, and a riveted handle will consist of two pieces, either wood or plastic, and then held into place with rivets. Next, we will explore the different types of knives and how to select the right one for the appropriate task at hand. Selecting the proper knife and using the proper technique are two of the most important skills that you can have when working in the kitchen. Kitchens will often have a variety of knives to choose from, but ideally, you should have a minimum of 4 different types of knives in your kitchen. A paring knife is used for the preparation of small foods. This knife is a small knife with a plain-edged, rigid blade, typically 2.5 to 4 inches long. This all-purpose knife is used for multiple tasks such as working with small fruits and vegetables, deveining shrimp, or cutting small garnishes. A larger cook's knife has a rigid blade that is used for chopping and preparation of larger foods. This broad, rigid blade is between 6 and 12 inches long, which makes this knife a general-purpose knife used for the preparation of large fruit, vegetables, and meat. The blade has a larger heel so that the knife is ideal for chopping herbs and onions. You've seen the TV chefs hold the tip of the blade on the board between the forefinger and thumb and rock the knife back and forth by lifting the handle with the other hand. A carving or slicing knife is used for slicing meat. The blade is typically broader and less flexible than a filleting knife, but narrower than a cook's knife. It is usually 8 to 15 inches long and is used for slicing or carving the joints of meat, poultry, or ham. This type of knife may have fluted edges. A serrated knife has a serrated blade that is used as a bread knife, which is typically 6 to 10 inches long. The serrations will tear through the surface of the loaf of bread, whereas a straight edge blade would be far less efficient and the downward pressure would result in a squashed loaf of bread. The shape of the blade, the length, the width, and the level of flexibility of the blade will help determine what the knife should be used to do. The cutting edge is also vital, as we recall from the previous slide, with the edges being straight, fluted, serrated, or scalloped. It is important when having a good set of knives that you care for them properly as well as sharpen them regularly. Knives should be stored in a knife block, magnetic rack with the tips pointing up, or in a canvas roll. It is potentially dangerous to store knives loose in a drawer, as the blades may become damaged or you could cut your hands if reaching in to get one. Plastic knife covers provide a low-priced, effective way for protecting the blade as well as your hands if you must store the knives in a drawer. Knives must be cleaned when switching between raw meats and anything else that you may be chopping, and, of course, when you are finished with using them. All knives should preferably be carefully hand-washed to avoid damaging the knives. Some knives can be cleaned in the dishwasher. However, you should check the manufacturer's instructions before doing so to see if the knife is dishwasher safe. Knives should be sharpened about once a week. It is important that we maintain sharp knives because dull knives are dangerous to use and are also harder to use, which can be discouraging and frustrating, especially to those who are newer at cutting and chopping. Knives can be sharpened by a variety of different methods. However, knife sets often come with a steel. A steel is a tool that is used for sharpening knives. Other tools include a pull-through sharpener, an electric sharpener, and a sharpening stone. In the following video, we will see a demonstration by Krista on how to sharpen a knife using a steel.
There's also a sharpener for sharpening knives because they will get dull over time. Have you ever seen one of these? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay, well you haven't. So it's just it's called a steel, and you just, oh, I gotta do it with this hand, I'm right-handed. Run it back and forth like this. And you're going this way and then this way, so you're doing it equal on both sides. You're not going to sit here on one side doing all this way, you know? And if you just have this handy, some cutting blocks even have a spot for it. And once a week, you just do this a couple of times. It's so much nicer because if you're cutting with knives that don't work, it's frustrating.
This concludes the fourth part of the American Way University training of Cooking and Baking 101, equipping caregivers to create delicious and nutritious homemade meals.